Hello, friends. I am super excited to have the wonderful opportunity tonight to spend time with my personal doctor, Dr. Troy Spurrill, and CEO Sam Caster from Alavea. These two men are the most intelligent men that I've ever met in my entire life. And Dr. Troy, especially, he has seen me through 7 hip surgeries, total replacements, and then Lyme disease. So I'm honored that these men are giving up their time this evening and that they are willing to share with you how the molecules I've discovered have drastically improved my health, changed my life, and what they can do for you. So take a listen.
But she recovered very well. She worked really hard to actually get her health back. And I'm gonna say summarize it this way. There is a very important component when it comes to health where we have to have things communicating. So things have to communicate mentally, chemically, and physically with inside the body. When you break down in communication, there's dysfunction, and then dysfunction will bring about disease. And so the original process where Mindy had these hip replacements, there was a lot of degenerative disease happening, and just restoring the antioxidant status and bringing a bunch of the nutrients back into the body really helped. But then she had got Lyme again, and that kind of set everything off. I ended up referring her out to some people because I was so busy. I didn't. I think I said I'll keep an eye on things, Mindy, but I'm referring you because someone who deals specifically with Lyme. I want them to kind of take over, and they normally have a lot of success. Very good doctor, and didn't this time with Mindy. And Mindy was just going downhill quickly. And I remember getting a lot of messages and texts from Mindy, just basically saying, "I'm dying. I can't do this anymore. This is I'm losing my brain. I'm losing my body. I'm losing me." And so then I said, I would take things back over again and see if we can start problem solving. I'd like to say I came up with a solution, but I did not. I just simply was there to observe the turnaround for Mindy. And I'm going to say it this way, because we're seeing a lot of the same thing with long haul COVID, with Lyme, chronic Lyme, and with autoimmune. There's a breakdown in communication between the cells of the body and the immune system of the body. And so the turnaround that I saw with Mindy because of the Ace Mannon was because of the improvement in the cellular communication. So all of a sudden, her immune system started to communicate better. Her regulatory system started to clean things up better. I didn't have to do a lot of the work I normally had to do because her body kicked back in, and she had the nutrient status. She had the nutrients there, but it doesn't matter if you have the nutrients there, if your cells aren't getting the signal to tell them what to do to use them. So it was very obvious that things started working better and communicating better, and her immune system was up. And we now know that Lyme, long haul COVID, and other infections can downregulate a part of our immune system, our memory T cells in particular, and then even our natural killer cells. And so the short version of that story is it's downregulating part of our immune system. So our immune system that helps protect us is becoming lesser and lesser in numbers. And so I saw Mindy's turnaround, and so that was what led me to look at the research, and then I was pretty blown away by just how much you guys have. And that's where I'll kind of let Sam take it from there because that's his wheelhouse, man. They've got a lot of push behind this, I'm going to say, just based on the pure volume of research. For guys like me, I love that. It's like Christmas.
Well, thanks, Troy. You're exactly right. So Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said all disease starts in the gut. And what happens is when your gut loses its capacity to generate short chain fatty acids and keep the balance of friendly bacteria and all the things that a healthy gut does, it starts deteriorating. That causes inflammatory responses, oxidative stress, and a loss of immune function. And then you develop what's called leaky gut, and this stuff starts leaking out into the bloodstream. And now all of a sudden you got chronic inflammatory responses going on all over the body, which is consistent with the 90-something different autoimmune disorders that are now diagnosable. And so the molecule that we're talking about tonight is called acemannan. It comes from the aloe vera plant. And it's interesting that aloe vera was the cornerstone of ancient medicine. And so in almost every culture of the world, how did that happen? Well, through centuries of using plants and identifying which ones actually worked. That's how it became the cornerstone. The dilemma was that there was something in fresh aloe vera gel that didn't transfer into aloe vera based products. And some kind of a labile molecule that, if it's in the fresh gel constituency, worked wonderful. But the minute you processed it into a product, that activity was completely gone. A group of research pharmacologists recognized that that immune response from whatever that molecule was in fresh aloe vera gel caused an immune optimization response unlike anything they'd seen in pharmacology. And so they broke down the gel to try to discover what was the molecule causing that effect and why was it denaturing, and could they stabilize it? The good news is that it was denaturing, because you can't patent a naturally occurring molecule, but you can patent the stabilization of it. And so actually they liked the fact that it didn't last more than a day. They determined that it was a polysaccharide made up specifically of an individual sugar called mannose, which has everything to do with its mechanism of action in the immune system. They stabilized it for the first time. They raised hundreds of millions of dollars to start doing their research. Their goal was to bring it to market as a drug or as a therapeutic agent. In fact, their first use patent that was issued, this company, this biotech company, said acemannan has been shown to be effective in the treatment of any disease that requires immune system intervention for its resolution. And as Dr. Troy can tell you, that's every disease.
That's
there
all
is
disease.
no disease that doesn't require the immune system intervention for its resolution. And so they thought they discovered the second coming of penicillin. I mean, it was just like, there is nothing that won't respond to this. And it's not that the molecule has an effect on any disease cell. It's that the acemannan molecule can optimize your immune system's response to everything. So it heals nothing, but it optimizes your immune response to everything. So that's kind of if one simple statement of how this works. Its mechanism of action is that it does bind to a surface receptor site on the master regulator of defense, a white blood cell called a macrophage. And when that happens, it optimizes all the responses that are derived from that influence. Like you said, natural killer cell, T cell activity, all kinds of immune responses are all driven and regulated, modulated by macrophage activity. So it's a very specific mechanism of action, but the bottom line is it optimizes your body's response to everything. So as you said, Troy, whether it's poor diet or exposure to toxicity or heavy metals or lots of stress in your life, I mean, there's lots of factors that compromise your immune system. What acemannan does is it restores function. Because like you said, when you lose function, disease cells are allowed to proliferate, and then one day you wake up with a clinical event. There's an actual tumor, and yet your body has the capacity to see a cancer cell and kill it. So why didn't it do it? Because it lost function. So what we're trying to do with acemannan and what it's capable of doing is just restoring function. And it really doesn't matter what the poor health condition is. If you restore function to your immune system, your body has a chance of fighting back.
Yeah, I love that because it helps with a key component to restore the communication. So if you've got a pretty quick result, like because Mindy did pretty well with that fairly quickly, but she was equipped already with a lot of the raw ingredients to make everything work. So for some people, they're not necessarily going to have that quick response. Some will, but if you don't, it just means you've got a couple other things you've got to get onboarded because you're missing a raw ingredient, or there's something else just to kind of a hole needs to be filled with a nutrient or a lifestyle change, something like that. So there's what I love about it is because of the cellular communication restoration. That's a key part
Yeah.
that then helps everything communicate better, and then it makes it easy for people like myself to look at the 12 modifiable factors that can set up the disease and see which one, if any, are still needed to be supported. So it's a game changer. I'm pretty excited with what I've been seeing so far. So I'm very happy for Mindy. Obviously, I suffered along there with her. She can tell you I wear this stuff on my sleeve when it comes to people that are struggling. And there's a lot of people, and I think I mentioned this to you the last time we met, Sam. We're entering a season of severe dysfunction when it comes to the down regulation of this immune system. So the timing of
Yeah.
you guys bringing this to market is unbelievable as far as just pure need. Um, the patients that I'm seeing that require this as part of their regimen is pretty staggering, and so I'm pretty
Yeah.
happy with what I've seen so far.
You know, when we were talking when I was there in Minnesota, one of the things that we talked about is, so what is the mechanism for the immune system to see a disease cell and start activating the immune response to it? Disease cell express antigens off their surface. Antigen is short for antibody generator. In other words, here's the message that says to the immune system, this is the communication, I'm sick. Here's my zip code. Please send
Yes.
somebody to take care of this. And so what the body, I mean, what cancer cells are very intelligent. They want to live. They don't want to be detected. So they develop blocking proteins that enable them to hide from detection. And of course, when you've lost function, that is compounded. And so the problem is you lose the ability to even detect the cancer cell and it's growing, or a tumor cell. And like I said, then one day you wake up and you have a clinical event. What Ace-Mannan does, and what they showed in clinical trials, is that it will activate macrophages to the extent that it can see past blocking proteins and detect the antigens that they need to attach to communicate to the rest of the immune system. So a lot of mechanisms of action, but again, most of them center around its ability to communicate. You're exactly right. How do you activate the immune system to optimize its response to its surroundings? And that's one of the many benefits of the Ace-Mannan molecule.
Well, and I also feel like as you talk about cancer and cancer hiding and camouflaging, I also feel like with Lyme disease, the Borrelia burgdorferi that I had, it also, these spirochetes can transform and they can hide in your joints and they can hide everywhere. And for people on this call who may not understand the terminology macrophages, I like to think of like Pac-Man cells. So these Pac-Man cells are coming in and they're so smart that for me, and I can't say for everybody, but I know that for me, in my heart and in my soul, I know that these macrophages were so smart that they saw wherever Bartonella, Babesia, Mycoplasma, the spirochetes, it saw where they all were hiding and it just cleaned it up. Does that make sense? Is that correct?
Well, for one
Yeah,
of the
when
things, sorry, go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Sam.
No, go ahead,
Well,
Jeff.
for one of the things I've seen, because we measure in the clinic fluid shifts within the cells and outside the cells. And so one of the things that I saw is you're exactly right. Like with Lyme, it's a lot of the co-infections that actually do the damage for people, because very similar to HIV causing AIDS, which stands for acquired immune deficiency syndrome, it's downregulating parts of your immune system that makes you more susceptible to other infections. And so really it's the one virus, yes, that's a problem, but it's the all the other exposure to other infections and your immune system's inability to manage that. And Lyme in particular, if you catch it real quick, you can take antibiotics and take it in the first 2 weeks, and there's a high success rate. If you don't get it right away, then it can hide in a cyst form and bury deep into your tissue. And what we've seen is that with the glycoproteins, you can actually have a cell signaling mechanism where the inside of the cell is getting triggered and activated, which is very much zinc dependent. And the immune mechanism will kick stuff out of the cell to clean house, so to speak. So it's kind of like when you've got someone who's storing a whole bunch of garbage inside the house, and finally the doors get opened and the garbage men can come in and kind of clean it out. Or it gets, better thing is it gets kicked to the curb and the garbage men are there to kind of clean it up. So it activates an intracellular mechanism that then allows the immune system to come clean it up, because it seems to be a cell signaling coming from the or to the immune system to increase the macrophage response at that cell as it's cleaning house. Because we're seeing and measuring fluid shifts that are very exciting inside the cell. And so that, for us, that's a really good thing to see with someone. In the past, we've seen what they call herxing. And with this, we see much reduced herxing, because the macrophages, the Pac-Man cells there, are there to kind of clean it up as the garbage is getting kicked out of the cells.
Wow, that's exciting. I think, Mindy, some of the things that we've looked at is like, okay, so you activate a macrophage, you know that it can see past blocking proteins when you do that. But what does an optimized immune system, how does that play out with viral infections, with radiation damage, things like that? So, various types of mice studies have been done. So, for example, one of them was they gave laboratory mice a lethal dose of influenza virus, the flu. So, the base group, of course, every one of them died because it was a lethal dose. When they provided ACE-Mannan and gave that same lethal dose, 70% of the mice lived through a lethal dose. Same thing with radiation. They gave 100% lethal dose of radiation to mice, and then they gave ACE-Mannan prior to that with the next group, and 60% of them lived. So having an optimized immune response to whether it's a pathogen or some other invasive thing going on in your body, like radiation, if you can optimize your immune system's response to that, you have a great chance of having a quality of life impact that maybe eliminates the manifestation of a full-blown disease. So it's just an incredible way to use what nature created for the specific reason of doing what we're doing with it. It's just that it had to be discovered and stabilized. It's kind of interesting that we always say that it doesn't have a drug effect. And the proof of that is the biotech company that discovered and stabilized it and patented it and did the several $100 million worth of research actually wanted to bring it to market as a drug. When they submitted the application with all the science, all the mechanism of action, all the safety to the FDA rejected it. And they rejected it on the basis that it didn't have a drug effect. So what's the drug effect? A drug has to alter the physiology of a disease process or a biomarker of a disease. So in other words, you're going to change the way your body is responding. They said all of your research doesn't show any alteration, it just shows enhancement. In other words, all that you've really developed a nutritional effect, not a drug effect. And so they rejected their new drug application, which was bad for them, good for us, because
Yes.
we licensed the rights, brought it into the market, have been using it all over the world through our Mana Relief not-for-profit to make it accessible to the world's most vulnerable, medically fragile children who would never get access to modern medicine. Either it's not accessible where they live or they couldn't afford it if it was. But turning on a child's immune system has proven to be the most effective way to deal with these childhood conditions all over the world.
Mhm. And can we chat for a few minutes too about inflammation? Because, I used to be so puffy, like I was puffy in my face. Dr. Troy would be blown away because I couldn't even wear a shoe. My left foot would swell up so much. And so with infection came inflammation. So can we talk a little bit about what's going on in the body that causes inflammation and how our beta lane molecule can help with inflammation?
Go ahead, Troy. Start off on inflammation.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to the inflammation. We're seeing inflammation as a major cohort and major component of all disease right now. The top diseases anyway. So inflammation, if it affects different parts of the body, will cause different disorders. Inflammation in the heart tissue will cause cardiac issues. Inflammation in the brain may cause MS or neurologic Alzheimer's, dementia, different things like that. So inflammation, basically, your immune system does two things really. It fights infection and it manages inflammation. And so we need inflammation. We need a certain amount of it, but we can't be over inflamed all the time. So the reality is there's a couple of things within our immune system that help regulate that. Omega-3 fatty acids are very much anti-inflammatory. We need a balance between omega-3, 6, and 9. And with the advent of seed oils and other things that have been put in our food supply, the majority of Americans in particular, other countries as well, but Americans in particular have just become more and more inflamed on a daily basis from our food supply. And then stress causes inflammation, lack of sleep. And here's a statistic: 92% of the people that come to our clinic and through our clinic, 92% have a sleep disorder. And many of them don't even know they have one. And so per Stanford University, there's 102 different diagnosable sleep disorders, and maybe 8 of them get looked at in our current healthcare system model. So every night when you go to bed, we get this activation of our immune system response in the brain. It's called the glymphatic network, and it's supposed to clean up the body. Your immune system cleans up the body. When we're 3, 5 years old, you could fall down the stairs, wake up the next day, and all the bruises are gone and healed, and your immune system is completely taken over because of the deep level of sleep that you've got. And as we go through life, we start to experience these different mental, chemical, and physical stressors, and then we lose that ability. Our immune system loses that ability because inflammation, as it kind of creeps in there, inflammation is like a little bit of a forest fire going through your body, burning up a lot of things that you actually need for good communication. So it has an effect of reducing communication in a good way, which makes sense, because if you're going through a forest and you're trying to, yell to the person you're in that forest with, if there's a fire, things get a little bit heated, no pun intended, as far as just trying to communicate properly. And we don't get that good level of communication, and certain things will burn up. And so we see that within the body. And so that's one of the reasons why there's such a strong need. And we've seen anti-inflammatories, just medicinal pharmaceutical anti-inflammatories, just go through the roof when it comes to how people are using them. And then they start becoming less effective. Even natural ones like turmeric and other and omega oils were becoming less effective. So there's more to the story. And so we're learning a lot right now just about the pure volume of inflammation and its impact in degenerative diseases, but also a lot of these chronic diseases. So having answers and solutions to help your immune system, which is kind of like the managers, those are the cells that manage and tell your other immune cells where to go. It's bringing back not only the infection and helping with the infection part, it's helping to manage the inflammation so we have a balanced, appropriate anti-inflammatory or inflammatory response.
Yeah, I read an article in Time magazine, cover story that said, acute inflammation is the body's response to injury. That's natural. It's what your body needs to bring the immune system to the point of injury. But when that doesn't downregulate appropriately, it becomes chronic. And so you hear the term chronic inflammation. And in this article, it said that it's no longer a question of, are you chronically inflamed? It's how bad are you chronically inflamed in the environment of the 21st century? Again, with stress and toxins, heavy metals and poor nutrition, too much sugar, not enough fiber, all of those things. And so, part of what we do is we apply science to nature and say, where do we find, the best response from a natural ingredient for that particular issue? So for instance, with immune optimization, there's nothing like the ACE-Mannan molecule. There's no other structure in nature that operates like that. So kind of a clue towards the anti-inflammatory is Cornell University did a study on which foods produce the best antioxidant effect in the body. And there were all kinds of lab tests done, like ORAC test and trap and all these different assays. But they said, let's test it in the human body. And when they tested the most popular vegetables in the human body and analyzed their antioxidant effect, beets showed up number one. Beat out all the green vegetables, you know. And so they took the beet and they said, so what is it in the beet doing this? And it turned out to be the pigment molecule, which makes it red. And if you've ever seen a beet, there's a lot of the pigment molecule in beet. The problem with beet is it's antioxidant on one hand, but those betalains are bonded to sugar. And of course, sugar is pro-inflammatory. And so they said, well, I wonder if we could improve the antioxidant effect if we separated the betalain from the sugar. So they actually developed a patent for doing that. And what they found is, yeah, there was a slight enhancement to the antioxidant effect, but all of a sudden it became the most potent anti-inflammatory, for reducing the biomarkers of inflammation. When you got rid of the sugar, you had both of those effects going on. And so I licensed that technology, for our integrative support technologies in Alavea. And like curcumin, it has a dynamic effect, but unlike curcumin, which is fat soluble, it's water soluble. So a lot more of it gets into your bloodstream quicker, because there's no resistance to it. And as a result, in human studies, you get a very dynamic anti-inflammatory response with these purified betalains.
Can I make a comment on that? Because there's something you said that's so crucial, and it's the fat soluble versus water soluble. Because right now we're seeing an abundance of people coming in with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and they don't drink alcohol. They try and watch their carbs, but they're still getting some liver dysfunction. And so when your liver and bile system can't actually emulsify the fat properly, we become deficient in the fat soluble vitamins, vitamin A, D, E, and K. And so it's harder to use. I'm going to say this for people out there who used some curcumin in the past, and it worked, and then it stopped working. The problem is your ability to your liver system to use that properly and onboard it properly. So there's other factors in play. To have a water soluble option is a game changer when it comes to anti-inflammatory mechanisms, because it's going to be used much differently, and you don't have a particular system like the liver bile system that can shut down to block the effectiveness. So it's a tremendous 1-2 punch when it comes to that and the Ace Man, and I really enjoy having that tool in the toolbox.
It's great, Mindy.
It's powerful. And I just know so many people who are struggling with such a wide variety of illnesses. And I just really want everyone to realize that if you can get your body to do what it is designed to do, the world can be your oyster. Like if you can just heal your body. And like we've talked about so many times, pharmaceutical drugs, there could be a need for them. But what is the root cause of why these symptoms are taking place, and what truly is going on in the body, and how can you heal it from the gut all the way out? So if there's anything last minute that you can share with our audience and our people listening, what would it be? I mean, I can share my story. I can scream it at the top of my lungs that I want everyone I know to heal their bodies. But is there anything that you think that these molecules would not help with, or any reason why anybody shouldn't take Ace Mannan or betalains?
Well,
go ahead,
I'll
Sam.
just say from a perspective of should you not, any reason not to take them. We've been doing this for about 25 years with Ace Mannan, it's about 30 now. And, we track adverse events because we all came out of that environment where you were required to by law. We've never seen adverse events, not even in conjunction with modern pharmaceuticals. And that's why Ace Mannan is such an effective integrative approach. So integrative means you combine it with the best strategies. It could be standard of care therapy. It could be chiropractic, it could be nutritional intervention. when you put all those together and garner the best, you get the best patient outcomes. But from a safety standpoint, we have not seen in 30 years any adverse effects, regardless of what therapies the people were taking with Ace Man.
Yeah, I was going to say almost the same thing as far from a perspective of just practicing with people. It's low risk, high reward as far low or no risk, high reward. And I've always preached that supplements in general meant to supplement a healthy diet and lifestyle. So as you work on your diet and lifestyle and onboard something like this, there's a very a big payoff potential with very minimal risk at all. So I'm newer to this because I just saw you go through your healing, and I'm still I've looked through the research quite a bit, and I've onboarded with many of my patients and I'm testing and managing them through this process. And it's one of those things where if someone does not have a good result right away, for me, it means what am I missing in the other areas? So it's that much of a lock as far as how I know it actually does what it does because of the research and what I've seen with my patients in the immediate shifts. So then it allows me to start going in and looking at where else, what am I missing in the other areas? Because I know it's going to fight infection and manage inflammation. I know. So then it allows me to then look in those other areas. And so we look at the foundational stuff, make sure your sleep. I'll say one thing. Some of the people that didn't respond right away had significant sleep disorders that they didn't know they had. Wow. Sleep apnea, upper airway resistance syndrome. And when you're battling that every night, that undoing that and correcting that in conjunction is a game changer, because all of a sudden you're getting oxygen to the brain at nighttime. And other factors too, heavy metals, and just some of the stuff we're doing right now with cleaning up our food supply and other areas is going to help alongside the actual restoring of the communication of the immune system. So for me, it is a good tool because it takes care of a complete category of a big need right now, and allows me to kind of help people problem solve where their other holes might be or the other lifestyle issues that might need to be addressed.
Yeah, and
Yeah, Mindy, just one other thing I'll just add, just as a quick add. When I said there's no toxic side effects, except some people are very toxic. They've been storing toxins in their fat and their liver, fat, as Troy said. When you start optimizing your body's immune response, you start mobilizing that fat and releasing those toxins. And so, it doesn't happen very often, but there could be an opportunity where somebody, has nausea or has diarrhea or whatever. And I say that's a toxic response to what's going on. Now, here's the good news. Our product doesn't have any toxins in it. Guess where those are coming from? They're coming from your body.
Yeah.
And some people refer to that as the healing crisis. So I don't want to imply that you're not going to be uncomfortable in the initial stages of trying to restore health, because sometimes it does express itself that way.
Yeah, and a few people have asked in the comments for some clarification on terminology. And one thing I want to talk about is herxing. So with Lyme disease, when I would try different protocols and different medications that would kind of tick off the spirochetes in my body, it would actually activate them. So these little little bacteria would go crazy. And as they're hitting each other, they would send off toxins throughout my body. And that's what herxing means. And when I took Ace Mannan and Betalaine, I never herxed. Where I would herx so bad. Dr. Troy knows, I would be unable to walk. My head would hurt so bad. I'd be nauseous. And I had none of that with this. And so one thing too, before we end this call, is sneak peek. We're talking a little bit about some heavy metals in the body. And so many of us are exposed to mold and heavy metals. And we do have a new product coming out very, very soon. So TBD, that will clear all of the heavy metals out of the body as well, which is vital for health.
Yeah, it's designed to bind to heavy metals. Clearing them all out may be a bit of a stretch, but what we're trying to do, obviously, is mitigate the impact of toxins and heavy metals in your gut initially, because that's one of the, biomarkers of gut destruction and leaky gut and all those things. So yeah, I think it's a revolutionary product because we looked at every single thing that could affect gut health and found the best component in nature to address that specific thing, and then put that together as a complex. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, we live in a really toxic world. And even for people who tell me that they're so healthy, they don't need any of these molecules. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday about how protective these molecules can be. So even if somebody is super healthy, they are still exposed to toxins in the air. They're still exposed to viruses as people are coughing around them. The plastic water bottles, they're just exposed to so much. And that's what Ace Manning can do. It can just activate your immune system so it can protect you to keep you optimally at your absolute best. So I love that we had this call tonight, and I'm super thankful again that you two would give me some of your time tonight and just share some of your research, some of your science, and your areas of expertise. If somebody invited you to this call tonight, I encourage you to get in touch with them, ask them more questions, and be well, and have a great night.
Thanks, Mindy. See you, Troy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye, Sam. Thanks, Minnie. Bye-bye.